Welcome back to Operation End Times. Today is February 28th. It is a Friday, and it is raining hard, really hard, here in San Jose. I'm your Jedi Warrior for Jesus, Ben Hellstead, and this is Building the Ark, Part 6, I believe, Bloodlines, Dark Secrets. So, in the first two Bloodlines, we were looking at this diagram, which was from Abel, or Adam and Eve, right on down through to Noah down here. And what we know is the Bible has this complete, erase. They just wipe out all the information about wives, especially if the man was in a shadow path. But what we find is there's an elite line of super hybrid genetics going on the Cain line or lineage, and therefore they weren't having tons of children. They were trying to control it, and they were using some form of birth control. Whereas the Seth line, had some divine blood in it, but they were multiplying and getting huge numbers. But there was other people out there multiplying because there's other nations, that are fighting these people. But anyway, according to the chart, I marked in the blues are people who are in the shadow, yellows are people walking in the light, greens are women. But what we see is light on, light off, world goes dark. Lights are on, lights are off, world goes dark. And it's a repeating pattern of both angels, sons of God, and mankind just going completely to the dark side where there's nobody left. And what we see in these family trees, and I think this is why it's a dark secret, is because if there are more people on the planet, there's no excuse for the incest. But if you're trying to control the bloodlines, the royal bloodlines, the queen bees, if you look at the history of the earth, that's what all the royal families were doing. The kings and queens of, France and Russia and the UK and Egypt, all of them, marrying sisters, half-sisters, mothers, nieces, cousins, whatever, And genetically, a lot of those royal bloodlines got messed up. Like in Russia, they got hemophilia, where they couldn't stop bleeding all of a sudden. So it becomes like a genetic defect. But what we got is, at the time of, there was a flood within the first 3 generations, and then the lights came back on, but then angels descended, Genesis 6:1, and Jared, in the age of Jared, his name means descent, but the world goes dark because these sons of God come down and start once again mating with humans, both men and women. And what we end up with in the family tree is some daughters going up to the bloodline of Cain, and then, as far as I could tell from the information, the daughters then come from the line of Cain and hook up with Noah and climb aboard the ark. But what's happening here is a interjection of angelic, the fallen, the watchers who came down. But what's also happening is, in my opinion, there's always these spots, and this is where I'm saying it's both men and women from the fallen, because these higher light beings can manifest as a man or a woman. But all along the timeline, beginning with Cain, it's like, who's the mystery woman? Who's his mystery wife? Where'd she come from? And then over here, there's a couple of candidates, Mechuyael. He was in the 5th generation, but his wife could have been some kind of angelic person. I think Enoch, possibly, or his son Methuselah, one of them could have hooked up with these angel women, and that's because there's kind of a mystery as to who is the mother. Oh, and the mystery down here, the reason why there's a mystery here, it is who the mother is, but there's a daughter of Enoch, and her name is Naamah, which is almost identical to the daughter born up here in the line of Cain to Zillah, whose name is Naamah. And, you know, I have concluded that it's Naamah that gets on the ark with Noah. Once again, a supercharged female hybrid bloodline hooking up with Noah's royal bloodline, because he was, you know, that was the story. His father, Lamech, basically was afraid of him because he looked like an angel. But there is the dark secret of what's going on here as far as who gets on the boat. And I'm telling you, I think several people from in here, and I think a couple other people from in here could have got on the ark. Now, they say Noah took 3 wives from Eliakim, who's right here. Eliakim, right there. He would have been a brother of Noah's father, so an uncle. He took from his uncle 3 daughters. And I have their names, but you know what? I could not pronounce them if I wanted to. But, you know, once again, it's just these people keep going into the same family tree, the same well, to come up with these wives, and they're pairing them up for a reason. You know, it isn't random. But you know, basically that gets us to the flip side, and you know, once again, even more crazy stuff. So over here we have Noah and Naamah, and then his 3 sons, which the 3 sons of Noah are Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And they're kind of listed in that order. So Shem would be firstborn, Ham would be secondborn, and Japheth would be the thirdborn. But in the book of Jasher, there's no mention of Ham. They just say Japheth and Shem, and you know, they don't even seem to have the order right. But these 3 wives, you know, I cannot even say their names. Like Shem's wife was Sadi Quetetabab, Ham's wife was Neilatam Amamuk, and Japheth's wife was Ada Tanesis. But here's the gist, man. You know, once again, these family trees, you know, like what happens as Noah comes off the ark. One note before I move on is Shem, Ham, and Japheth are described when they divide up their lands. Shem is described as warm. His lands are warm. Ham's are hot, and Japheth are cold, which kind of parallels Revelations when the churches are kind of getting rebuked or talked about. But Jesus basically makes this statement where he says, I wish that you were either hot or cold, but you're lukewarm, I'm spitting you out. So Shem, you know, is described as in the warm lands. But anyway, what happens is Ham, when they're on the boat, something's going down in there. It's another of this, you know, having sex with your mother or sister or whatever. But when Noah gets drunk, they say it is Ham that comes in and does something or makes fun, or, you know, I say, when they say uncovered his father's nakedness, what that actually means is he had sex with his mother. And that's why when Noah wakes up, it says he curses, and he had this sex way earlier, you know, because his son Canaan is actually born, you know. But when they list his sons, Canaan is always listed as the 4th son. The order is Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. But Canaan is mentioned earlier before any of his other 3 brothers, because it's as Noah is cursing his son, he curses Canaan, his son, Canaan. Why is he viewing Canaan as his son? Because Canaan came out of his wife, Naamah. But what was Ham trying to do, having sex with his mother? He was trying to create a genetic super hybrid seed line for his family, you know, through his son Canaan. And that's kind of what comes out of it, is his sons, Cush, Mizraim, Phut, they're all kings, mighty men. And that's how the story goes, is that Ham also stole the clothes that God put on Adam and Eve, and they had some kind of power or magical powers. But Noah had those clothes. They had been handed down to him from his grandfather, Methuselah. But they had powers, and Ham took those clothes as well, and he gave them to his son, Nimrod. And it changed Nimrod's whole life. He became a mighty man, and he initially was a good guy, using the clothes to battle evil guys in dark cities and people that were outside, you know, coming into their lands. But Nimrod was a guy that went from light to dark, and we kind of got him penciled in right here, Cush. And the thing about Cush, his son was Nimrod. Nimrod became a king and eventually created the Tower of Babel, which took 43 years to build. It was 203 bricks wide. It was 5,433 cubits high, which would be, I'd think it'd be about somewhere over 6,000 feet tall, which is over a mile high in the sky, which is kind of incredible. But the base of it would have been 15,000 feet or 3 miles wide. But, Nimrod was spiritual. Going from the light to the dark, the super genetic hybrid seed line. And he eventually became, through the Tower of Babel, he was also the king of Babylon and the king in Ur. And that's kind of what's going on up here in this seed line of Shem. As it transitions across here, is Shem's son, Arphaxad. His son was Salah, whose son was Eber, whose son was Peleg when the earth was divided. And, once again, it's the old men having men begatting men, but it says they have sons and daughters, but once again, a cover-up of who the wives are. But what happens is Shem's lineage, when Peleg has his son Ru, they basically start marrying into the royal family of Nimrod, because Ru's wife was Oha, and she was the daughter of Ur. And that was who Ur was named after. So Ur was a prince or a king. And you know why we know this? Is because eventually Abraham hooks up with Sara, and her name means princess. And why is she a princess? Because her mother, father, etc. is kind of coming out of this lineage right up here, which is this portion of the lineage right here, which is Ru, who then has a son, Serug, and Serug is dark, because it talks about men transgressing against the law. Serug, then his son is Nahor. Nahor has Terah, and Terah then has several sons, Haran, Abraham, and Nahor. And see, people name their sons after the grandfathers. So Nahor, Abraham's brother Nahor, was named after Abraham's grandfather Nahor. But what I'm going to tell you is his brother Nahor, his wife was Malika, the queen, which is kind of linked back to pre-flood. There's a Meleka, which is one of Methuselah's daughters. But once again, there's another mystery here, which is who is the mother of Sarah? It's over here. Who is the mother of Sarah? Because I believe, once again, that's part of that divine, angelic seed line. And it's once again pairing up with Abraham, which is the male divine seed line, to once again start this divine seed line, which becomes the children of Israel. But once again, like always, right in here with Abraham, there's this dark secret, because Sarah is his half-sister, meaning they share the same father. They don't share the same mother. So that's the question, is who is Sarah's mother? And they don't really tell us. But I'm telling you, it's the royal family of Nimrod, and the princes and whoever the heck was in his house. And believe me, they were moving and had, were keeping the sacred feminine, bloodlines alive, which eventually hooked up with Abraham in the form of Sarah, and also Nahor's wife, Milcah, which means queen. So anyway, I got to kind of wrap it on up for where we're at, but there were evil spirits roaming around in those days. Abraham was dealing with it. There's a story of Abraham, how the ravens were eating the seeds in the field, and Abraham yelled, and the ravens left, and that was the beginning of his walk of power, in God. But he rejected the false idols, the false god of fear, and he walked out of the land of Ur. All right, hey, God bless. There's these dark secrets, and I'm gonna wrap it all up and move it forward somehow. I got to ponder and meditate on it all. But if you're wondering why are we going through all this, you will know shortly, my friends. God bless.